I'm coming, Mom. Boy's voice rang out from upstairs, brimming with excitement. Martha smiled as the thunder of footsteps echoed down the stairs. Take it easy, dear, you might hurt yourself, she called gently. A moment later, a flushed-faced boy, about 12 years old, appeared, his brown eyes gleaming with anticipation. I'm ready, Mom. Let's go before it starts. I want a good spot on the list. Gray grinned, nearly bouncing in place. Martha chuckled softly, smoothing down his unruly hair with a mother's touch. She was a woman in her early 30s, with fair skin, striking brown eyes, and shoulder-length blonde hair. Her graceful features and warm presence drew admiration wherever she went. Today was no ordinary day. It was the aptitude test held by the Academy Union, a once-a-year event to determine a child's elemental affinity and talent. In this world of elementalists, every individual had an affinity with a natural element, be it fire, wind, water, or others, and the ability to cultivate and grow stronger by absorbing elemental particles from the world. With each increase in cultivation realm came greater power and longer life. Children were only eligible for testing at the age of 12, when their bodies were most receptive to cultivation. Any later, and the chances of success dwindled. It was also the day many would receive their first glimpse into the path their future might take. Those from powerful clans often had their techniques passed down. But for ordinary folks like Gray and his mother, this test was a chance, perhaps the only one, to join an academy and rise. Outside, the city was alive with anticipation. Streets bustled with parents and children, all heading toward the arena in the Eastern District. This town wasn't large, and typically, no more than 20 participants took the test each year. By the time Gray and Martha arrived, the stands were already full. The crowd buzzed with chatter, and a child was already standing on the test platform. Look, Mom. They've started already. Gray groaned. Now I'll be near the end of the list. Martha gave him a blank stare. You were the one who took forever to get dressed, and now you're blaming me. She sighed but said nothing, instead steering him toward the registration desk. Come on, let's get you signed in, little man. A plain wooden table sat by the gate with a tired-looking man seated behind it, pen in hand. Hello, sir. I'm here to register my son, Martha said politely. Name and age? The man asked, flipping to a new page. Gray. He's 12 years and 2 months old. The man scribbled it down and nodded. He'll be the 16th to be called. 3 kids have already gone up. Be ready, if he's not on stage within a minute of his name being called, he'll have to wait till next year. Understood. Thank you, Martha replied, then led Gray to a spot in the stands. She gave him a pointed look. Now sit still and be patient. No squirming. And don't be nervous, all right? Gray gave a small nod, trying to appear calm, though his eyes betrayed his excitement. Suddenly, a voice rang out from the platform. *** Jonas, elemental affinity, fire. Grade purple. ***. The arena erupted. Did he say purple grade? No way. In this city. The last time someone awakened with purple grade talent, all the academies fought over them. Talent in the Chilean Empire was graded by color. ***, pink, orange, purple, and blue ***. Pink was the lowest, blue the highest. The majority fell into the pink and orange categories, while purple and blue were rare and celebrated. There were even rumors of dual elementalists, like the Emperor himself, who possessed both a blue and purple affinity and was regarded as the strongest elementalist alive. Now, with a purple grade fire element, Jonas instantly became the center of attention. Academy representatives seated near the stage began arguing, each trying to claim the prodigy. Cough cough, the elder who announced the results intervened with a diplomatic smile. Why not let the boy choose where his heart lies? That calmed them down, barely. Seniors, may I speak with my parents before choosing? Jonas asked with admirable composure. Of course, one representative said warmly. Even in a small city like this, a purple grade student was a treasure worth nurturing. Gray watched with wide eyes as Jonas stepped down from the stage to meet his parents, admiration, and a hint of envy, etched on his face. Wow, a purple grade, he murmured. Martha, too, was surprised. It was rare for such talent to appear in cities like theirs. The elder quickly regained control. Let's proceed, he said, calling out more names. When the 10th child was tested, a brief break was announced to allow the late registrants' names to be added to the roster. After 10 minutes, the test resumed. Gray tensed in his seat as the 15th name was called. His palms were slick with sweat, and his heart thudded in his chest. Martha reached over, gently clasping his trembling hands. Whatever the result, promise me you'll stay true to yourself. Gray swallowed and nodded.
I promise. Then it came.
Asterisk asterisk next up, Gray. Asterisk asterisk. The crowd turned as one, eyes sweeping across the stands, searching for the next child to step forward. And so, with thousands of eyes on him, Gray stood. His journey was about to begin. Gray's awakening. Gray stood slowly, his legs feeling heavier than usual as the elder called his name. The noise of the crowd faded into a quiet hum in his ears as he walked toward the platform, every step echoing louder in his chest. When he reached the stage, he hesitated, suddenly aware of hundreds of eyes watching him.
Who?
He took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside. Step forward and place your hand on the stone, the elder said with a reassuring smile. Gray's gaze fell on the test stone. It looked ordinary, smooth, dark, unassuming. Yet it was the very thing that would decide his future. It held the power to reveal one's elemental affinity and grade, the foundation of any elementalist's life. He stepped forward and rested his hand gently on its surface. It felt cold to the touch. An instant later, a strange energy surged from the stone, flowing through his palm and into his body. Startled by the sensation, he nearly pulled away.
Don't move.
It will be over soon, the elder whispered, as if sensing his fear. Gray steadied himself as the energy flowed through him again, circling through his limbs, heart, and mind. 3 complete circuits later, the energy retreated, leaving behind a faint warmth. He exhaled slowly, relaxing. The elder approached the stone and studied it intently, then turned toward Gray, his brow furrowed. Place your hand on it again, he said. Gray blinked.
Again.
No other participant had repeated the process. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Why is he doing it again? Is the stone malfunctioning? Maybe he has something special. But Martha remained expressionless in the crowd, standing still as if she had expected this all along. Gray complied, placing his hand back onto the stone. The same process occurred. Energy flowed, circled, and withdrew. The elder approached once more, stared deeply at the stone, then at Gray.
And sighed.
When he looked back at Gray, there was sympathy in his eyes. A quiet, unspoken kind of sorrow.
Gray's heart tightened.
Senior, what's my result? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The elder straightened, then spoke loud enough for all to hear.
Gray. Elemental affinity.
0.
Silence. Then. Boom.
It was as if lightning had struck the arena. Gray's mind went blank.
His breath caught.
His thoughts scattered.
0? No.
That can't be right.
He stood motionless, numb.
The world faded around him. The crowd exploded into murmurs. 0 affinity. Is that even possible? I've only heard of it in legends.
How pitiful.
His future's ruined. So much for the double test. I thought he was special.
Some voices pitied him. Others mocked.
Most just turned away. Martha clenched her fists in silence, her expression unreadable.
Her heart ached, but she knew this day would come.
She had promised, and she could not turn back now. The elder glanced toward the academy representatives. They gave him a nod, permission to continue. To them, Gray was no longer worth consideration. A boy with no affinity had no value. Let's move on, the Starlight Academy representative said curtly. Still, the representative from the Lunar Academy offered a shred of kindness. Young man, he said gently, some awaken late. There's still hope, though it is rare.
Don't give up.
Gray didn't respond.
He couldn't.
He barely heard the words. His legs moved on their own as he stepped off the platform like a ghost, eyes blank, his spirit shattered. He didn't return to his seat.
He didn't look at anyone. Why me?
Martha rose quickly and followed him.
She had to be strong. For him. The test resumed.
The elder called the next name. The arena's excitement rekindled. Jonas's decision was still to come, after all. Jonas, from his seat, watched Gray's retreating figure with indifference. In his eyes, Gray had already been left behind, irrelevant. Later that day,
the test ended.
Jonas announced his decision to join Starlight Academy, the most prestigious of the Union. Cheers erupted. He left the arena like a rising star. But in the whispers that spread through the city, another name also took root, not as a genius, but as a tragedy. Gray. The boy with no element. That evening, Gray's home.
Knock knock. Gray, can I come in?
Martha's voice came softly through the door.
No answer.
She pushed it open and found him lying on his bed, staring at the ceiling, unmoving.
"Gray," she whispered. "Why?" he croaked.
His voice cracked under the weight of despair. Why did this happen to me? Martha sat beside him, brushing her hand over his hair gently. Her throat tightened, but she held back her tears.
"I don't know," she said honestly.
But do you remember what your father told you before he left? Gray didn't move. But his lips murmured the words. Never give up on yourself. Even if the world turns its back on you, stand tall. Martha smiled faintly. Exactly. He believed in you. I believe in you. You're my son, Gray.
And I know.
I know you were never meant to live an ordinary life. Gray's lips trembled. You are different, yes, but what makes you different, makes you special. Her voice carried a strange certainty.
A quiet strength.
You will rise, Gray. Above all others. One day, they will all look up and see you at the top. Something inside Gray stirred.
Faint. Flickering. But it was there. A seed.
Later that night, Martha's room. Alone, Martha sat on her bed, her face buried in her hands. Tears flowed freely now. I know you said it was for his future, she whispered to the night sky. But did he really have to suffer like this? She looked out the window, eyes filled with pain and anger. Meanwhile, a distant battlefield. In an open field far from the city, a white-haired man hovered in the air, radiating an aura so intense that even an army of thousands dared not advance. He looked no older than 30, yet his hair was a pure, silvery white. His face, sharp and regal, was lined with a sorrowful smile. "Retreat!" shouted one of the generals below, trying to get his soldiers to flee. But the man did not attack. He only watched, expression unreadable, before turning and vanishing toward the distant city walls. Soon, he arrived at a worn-out house.
A humble place.
Inside, there was only a bed and a shelf. On that shelf sat a single painting. In it, a smiling woman.
A little boy.
And the man himself. The white-haired man picked up the painting, running a hand over it gently. He must be 12 by now. I wonder how he took it. His eyes softened. I miss you both, he whispered, voice full of longing. And in the silence of that lonely room, the man, Gray's father, stood tall. Watching. Waiting.
Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
On a rocky patch in the forest northwest of Red City, a young boy could be seen, with his hands on his knees while in a standing position panting heavily. Sweat dripped from his chin as he bent exhausted. When he raised his face, a stunningly handsome face could be seen. He had short black hair and an inverted triangular-shaped face. He had bow-shaped lips with beautiful black eyes. His skin was toned, from being in the sun for too long each day. He measured 5'7" in height and has a slender body, adding his chiseled-like muscles, further made physique just amazing. Any girl will fall heads over heels for him. Gray stood up and looked at his hands, which looked rough for someone his age. It has been 3 years since the day of the test. After wallowing in sadness for some time, he was able to pick himself up. One day during dinner, Martha suggested he should start training his body since there was no way he could hone it using the element which would in turn keep him healthy. At first, he rejected the idea, but after multiple convincing from Martha, he finally decided to try it out. Gray took up the idea and started training ever since. It has been 3 years already. He had forgotten just how many times he had trained himself so hard he couldn't stand up. He has always been a determined person, so he decided, if he couldn't cultivate, he will pour all his energy into honing his body. Besides, spending his time here helps him escape from the reality of what happened to him. Well, that should be it for today. I better get back before it gets dark. Gray immediately rushed home before his body would give up on him after the rigorous training. He always tries to surpass himself every day he heads out to train. Red City. "Mom, I'm home," Gray shouted as he opened the door and walked into the house. Gray immediately smelled a great aroma coming from the kitchen as he walked in. "Okay, dear, go freshen up. Dinner will be done shortly," Martha's voice came from the kitchen. "Okay, Mom," Gray replied as he went to take a warm bath. He always baths warm water after training as it helps wear down the fatigue. But nothing beats a good night's sleep. 10 minutes later, Gray came downstairs and saw a wonderful sight on the table. Martha prepared his favorite food. "How was your training today?" Martha asked while inviting Gray over to have his meal. "It was okay. I was able to go 30 minutes more than my usual time," Gray stated proudly. "Did anything strange happen today?" Martha asked Gray curiously. "No, Mom, You always ask me this question every time I tell you I surpassed my previous records in training, Gray couldn't help but ask. Martha has asked him this question frequently lately, and it was sort of making him worried. Will something happen to me if I hone my body too hard? Gray was starting to get scared. Elementalists don't hone their body, the elements do it for them. But the result is different from honing the body. His body is stronger than most elementalists of his age, because of how much he had honed it. Nothing, dear Martha replied. Why isn't it happening yet? Could it be that he hasn't met the requirements? He said it should awaken after he clocks 15 years old. It has already been 5 months now. Martha couldn't help but begin to worry about her son's future. She hid it to herself though and didn't show any visible reactions. Gray looked at her suspiciously, before focusing back on his meal. After dinner, he spoke with Martha for some time before he went to his room to rest. Gray grew as time went on and was able to put everything behind him. His situation made him find comfort in reading when he's alone. Gray continued his daily routine, and quickly another month went by without any major thing happening. On a particular day, Gray was in the forest doing his usual training routine. He suddenly started feeling hot and sweating more than usual. He felt maybe it was because of his training and decided to take a short rest to calm his temperature. He got hotter as time went on and also sweated more. What's happening to me? Gray started panicking because of what was taking place. He immediately packed his things and ran home as fast as he could. Gray is faster than most people because of his training. Only some wind and lightning elementalists will have an edge over him in terms of speed. And his stamina was also high, so he had no problem sprinting a long distance. When he got home, he immediately pulled all his clothes and jumped into cold water. The hotness in his body continued getting hotter, and it got to the point he couldn't bear it anymore. He screamed in pain for some time before passing out. Huge changes were currently going on in his body, and his body began automatically absorbing the elemental particles in the surrounding. His body was like a black hole as it absorbed the elements greedily. His toned skin started reverting to his usual fairness, and his rough palm also turned as smooth as a baby's palm. By the time he woke up, it was already late in the evening, and he noticed he was fully dressed in his bed. Who dressed me up? That was the first question that entered his mind on seeing his condition. He looked around confused by everything that happened. He managed to sit up. He walked downstairs after some time and saw Martha sitting quietly on a chair. She raised her head and looked at Gray with a big smile when she noticed him coming down. Mom, were you the one who dressed me up? Gray asked the most important question on his mind after seeing her. Gray felt embarrassed because he remembered being fully naked when he passed out. Martha was taken aback by the question. She couldn't believe the first thing Gray said after waking up was who dressed him up. I have no idea, Martha replied as she looked at Gray with eyes saying, do you live in this house with someone else? Try asking that question again, and I'll beat you up. He is actually embarrassed because I dressed him up. I'm his mother. This kid, Martha thought wryly. When Gray heard her reply, he wanted to talk more, but when he saw the look in Martha's eyes, he quickly swallowed his words. He knew just how scary she could be if she got angry. Gray, why were you unconscious when I came back? Martha asked worriedly. I don't know, Mom. I suddenly started feeling hot during training. I rushed home and took a cold bath, but the hot feeling didn't stop. Instead, it increased. I passed out shortly after. Gray recounted everything that happened before he passed out, omitting the part where he screamed like a baby. He still wanted to keep his pride in front of his mother. Martha immediately fell into deep thoughts when she heard this. She glanced at Gray before getting up and walking towards the kitchen to get dinner for him. As she walked past him, she froze in the spot and looked at him again from head to toe. Gray was surprised by his mother's abrupt behavior and started feeling scared, thinking his mother was angry. Gray, did you notice the changes in your skin? Martha asked. She clearly remembered how he looked in the morning. Gray didn't really take note of the change in his skin and looked at it. He was dumbstruck by what he saw. How is this possible? He looked at his skin and his eyes drifted to his palm. Martha kept staring at Gray, happiness clearly seen on her face. Mom, what's going on? Gray inquired. He was right. He's lucky he didn't lie to me. Martha was ecstatic. Who was right, Mom? What's going on? Gray was nervous because of his mother's current strange behavior. Your father, Martha said happily. Dad. Gray raised his brow, clearly still confused about everything that was going on. Yes, Gray, your father. He told me when you turned 12 years old, if you go for the test, there was a possibility you wouldn't awaken your element. Martha slowly explained to her son. Wait, he knew I wouldn't have any affinity with any of the elements? The confused Gray asked. Well, it can't really be said knew. But yes, he did. According to the scroll, it would have to stay inside of you for 15 years. Martha continued. Inside me? I don't get it. Did he put something inside me? Gray still wasn't comprehending what was going on. Yes, baby, as a newborn, you had a lot of health issues, and no matter what I tried, you didn't get any better. Your father came back from one of his adventures, and seeing how unhealthy you were, he also tried his everything he could and even took you to the best healers he knew, but unfortunately, nothing worked. Martha slowly started explaining. So, how was I cured? Gray asked curiously. He never knew he had health problems as a newborn.
A pearl, Martha said. A pearl? How does a pearl cure someone?
Gray asked, still confused. I'm getting to it. Martha smiled and recounted what happened to her son. During one of his father's adventures, he accidentally stumbled upon a ruined ancient temple. He saw a pearl with myriad colors rotating slowly in the middle of a hidden room of the temple. Beneath the rotating pearl was a scripture. After reading it, he was astounded by the information it contained. He quickly kept the pearl and the cultivation technique. Yes, cultivation technique. What he thought to be a scripture was a cultivation technique. He remembered the feeling he got from the pearl and was certain it wasn't fake. The description of the cultivation technique was unique. It stated that once one assimilates with the pearl after 15 years, they would be able to wield all elements. Seeing this, he wanted to cultivate it, but alas, there was a catch to it. First, the pearl can only assimilate with a body that hasn't awakened any element yet. And it would need 15 years before completing assimilating with the body. He sadly kept the pearl and cultivation technique when he realized there was no way he could use it. He got home a week after Gray's birth and realized the situation his son was. After trying everything he could but there was still no way to save him, he placed all his hope on the pearl. If the pearl has such a monstrous ability to give someone the ability to train all elements, then saving someone wouldn't be impossible. Martha refused the idea when he brought it up. Which mother would allow an unknown pearl to be placed in her baby? But after her husband persuaded her and seeing there was nothing they could do to save Gray, she gritted her teeth and accepted it. 2 days later, her baby was as healthy as he rightly should be. Although she still took Gray to take part in the test, she didn't know if he would awaken his element then. She also hoped there was a possibility he would awaken an element, but unfortunately, he didn't. The notion of telling Gray about came to her when she saw how depressed he was after the test, but then again, what if after he reached 15 years of age he didn't awaken any elements? What would she tell him then? He would be even more traumatized than when he didn't awaken it at the age of 12. Even she was starting to lose hope when there wasn't any difference in him after he passed 15. The scroll stated Gray should use physical exercises to hone his body, which he had been doing for almost 3 years now. So, it was understandable she started feeling fearful about it. Gray sat down stunned by what he was hearing. But, why didn't you tell me earlier? He asked. When you passed 15, did you awaken your element then? Martha asked. Gray shook his head. I know it seems like a flimsy excuse, but if I told you something was placed inside of you and you wouldn't awaken your element by 12, rather by the time you turn 15, you wouldn't believe me, since it was known everywhere that one can only awaken their elements by 12. Although there are a few late bloomers, it can't be predicted from birth. Maybe after the test, you'll start feeling what I said was true, but what about after you turned 15? Then what? Even I was starting to lose hope. Martha said calmly. Hearing Martha's explanation, Gray knew she was right. There was no way he would have believed it if she told him he wouldn't awaken his element by 12. When he thought of all the possible heartaches his parents must have gone through due to his sickly nature as a newborn, he felt grateful to them. At least they didn't give up hope, even when it meant placing their last hope on a pearl with unknown origins. At least they just wanted to save their child. Although the thought of it being fake and probably killing him passed through his mind, he remembered what his mother said at that time. He was dying anyway. After some time, he immediately thought back to what he heard. Yes, not just any ordinary elementalist, but one who controls all elements, Martha said while holding Gray's hand in joy. Control over all elements, it kept ringing in his ear. How can someone have control over all the elements? Gray asked with shock. I don't know, baby, but what I do know is that your dad will never lie to me, and will not do anything to harm you too, Martha said. Wait here. Martha ran into her room and brought an ancient scroll out. She looked at Gray before handing it over to him. Study it closely, she said after Gray collected the scroll. Gray took the scroll from her, still not knowing what to do. He studied the scroll closely before opening it. Then he looked at it with great curiosity. The scroll showed him the exact way of cultivating the technique. Without the pearl, anyone can have the technique but will never be able to cultivate the technique. Gray finally calmed his thoughts. No wonder Mom was so confident. It truly is worth it, Gray thought happily. Gray felt like he had regained something. It was a desire, the desire to grow strong. Ever since he was little, he had always wanted to be the strongest, but that desire died at the time of the test. But now, the fire is suddenly reignited, and the fire was burning stronger than ever. I can finally cultivate, I will definitely work hard. Gray clenched his fists tightly. Gray rushed to his room as he couldn't wait anymore to start cultivating. He had waited for so long and now, finally, he can start cultivating. Martha looked at Gray hurrying inside and did nothing to stop him. She knew just how badly he wanted to be an elementalist. She felt happy for him, now he can start his rise to the top. She knew it won't be easy as he will face a lot of obstacles, but she believed he will definitely be able to overcome them. He already overcame one of such obstacles in his journey, and it was also one of the hardest. Gray went inside and immediately tried entering a meditative state, so he can clearly follow the pattern of the technique. He sat in a lotus position and stayed motionless to try to calm his mind. After 10 minutes, he finally got into a meditative state. He followed the instructions said in the scroll. He tried searching for the energy in his body. It took him close to an hour before finding it, of course after failing several times. Found it. Now for the second step. Gray was thrilled on managing to find the energy. Now the next step was to move the energy in a particular pattern in his body. He has to repeat the cycle 10 times to get his body accustomed to it. Gray tried the first time and failed to even move the energy from its current location. He didn't give up though. He didn't give up when he found out he didn't have any elemental affinity, talk less of now that he can cultivate with having an affinity with all elements. He tried again, which also failed. He kept on attempting it for the rest of the night with no progress. By the time he got totally exhausted, it was almost dawn. He collapsed on the floor and fell asleep there and then. His body was totally worn out from all the attempts. By the time he woke up, it was already midday. He felt pain all over his body and was still exhausted. If a normal elementalist tried what he did, they wouldn't be able to get out of bed for a week. The cultivation technique took a great toll on the human body. No wonder it required such strict physical training before one can start cultivating it. If it were my previous physique before I started training, I would not have been able to get out of bed for a month, Gray exclaimed when he felt the aches all over his body. The process continued for another 2 days before Gray started making small progress. He was finally able to move it, albeit a little, it was still something. He was so happy but also felt sore all over his body for his little progress. Due to his strong training, he was able to withstand pain more than others because he wrecks his body almost every day in the training session. After another week, he was already able to complete one cycle. He felt excited when he imagined himself using the different elements and couldn't help but laugh in his bed. He couldn't laugh properly because of all the pain his body was going through. During the process of the second cycle, Gray felt the pain increased a bit. He was already starting to get used to the pain, then it increased. Hiss, Gray hissed in pain while midway of the circulation. I can't continue like this pain will probably kill before I complete the circulation. I need to come up with a way to reduce it. The pain was already getting almost unbearable for him. He had to quickly think of a way, else he would go on pause then continue some other time.
But he didn't want that.
I will head out to train tomorrow. It's been a while I trained, Gray said. He had already gotten used to training his body, and these days he had focused fully on cultivation. He had somewhat missed it. Gray stopped the circulation and went to sleep. He will wake up early tomorrow to go for a long training session. The next morning, Gray got up filled with energy as he ran out of his room. He saw Martha in the living room and told her he was going out to train. Martha noticed how cheerful Gray became since he started cultivating. Although he hadn't made a breakthrough yet, it was good he can cultivate now. Martha was surprised Gray was going to train. She remembered that since Gray started cultivating the technique, he had immersed himself fully on it. Eat something before you go. Also, remember to take some food with you, Martha immediately shouted when she saw Gray was about to leave without eating. Gray hurried back and ate some food. He took a little along and went on his way. I will return late today, Gray yelled from outside. Martha smiled wryly. Gray came out of their house and headed straight for the entrance of their little city. On his way to the city entrance, he noticed that even though it had been some time since the test, people still recognized him. Not only that, but they mostly look at him like an anomaly, and some could even be seen whispering to little kids while pointing at him. Trash. Gray saw a young boy his age shouting at him. If it were before, he would have felt bad when he was called a trash. But now, he doesn't give a shit about what they're saying about him. He ignored them and continued his journey towards the forest. The youth who was with 2 others looked at Gray with a small smile. Oh, looks like he's starting to grow wings. Good thing I noticed it early. Guess it's time to teach him another lesson. The 2 others chuckled slightly, but didn't plan on joining him when he's teaching Gray a lesson. They only planned to watch. After all, they've heard about Gray's mother's violent nature. Most of the people in the city knew that Gray usually goes to the woods to train. The city wasn't big anyway, so the occupants are familiar with each other. Some of the people usually mocks him, saying he had gone mad because he was trash. But he stopped paying attention to them when Martha told him those were just people who had sad lives, so they were looking for an outlet to pour out their frustration. This youth was called Derek, and surprisingly, he was recently kicked out of the academy. He was a wind elementalist, only his elemental grade was the lowest there is, pink. Not just that, but he was bad at cultivating, so when he didn't meet up with the target set by the academy which admitted him, he was sent back home. After joining any of the academies, there are tests carried occasionally to see the growth of the students. If they notice a student isn't making any improvements, the student will be dropped. The pressure and competition at the academies are really high. Derek and his friends were part of the students dropped. Although he was dropped, he was already in the 7th stage of the collection plane. His age should usually have broken through to the fusion plane by now. The collection plane is the first plane in an elementalist journey. This is the plane where the elementalists collect the elemental essences from the world into their bodies for the first time, thereby strengthening it. Gray got to where he trained and immediately began with his usual training session. Before he knew it, it had already started to get dark, and he still didn't get as tired as he used to. Wow, seems like my physique improved. I can train for longer periods without quickly tiring out now. Gray said with astonishment. Could it be because of the technique I'm currently cultivating? He pondered for some time. Since he couldn't figure out what caused it, he decided to forget about it for now. He prepared his things and headed home. On the path leading to Red City from the forest, a group of youths could be seen standing by the side of the road. Their leader was a boy around 15 years old. There were 4 boys in total gathered by the side talking. When Gray walked closer to where they were gathered, he paused and looked at them. This was not his first time encountering something like this. Since the leader of this group in particular came to the city some months ago, he had been targeting him. But due to the fact he didn't want to make any trouble for himself, he always tried his best to avoid him. Although, there had been 1 time or 2 times or 3 times, okay, it's been a lot of times that he had been unfortunate to not have been able to avoid him, and they spoke amicably, with him having a black eye at the end of the conversation. Here comes the trash boys. Derek looked at Gray with disdain. The boys started laughing when they heard this. They've always accompanied Derek whenever he bullied Gray, or any other youth. Gray looked at them with emotionless eyes before asking, Derek, what do you want now? He asked while thinking of a plan to get out of his current predicament. He knew what Derek wanted to do to him, and he didn't plan on having a black eye this time. He was a little tired of telling Martha lies, although he knew she was aware he was lying. I never knew you were this stupid. You obviously offended me this morning. I called you and you snubbed me, Derek replied with a mischievous smile. Derek's group snickered when they heard this. Gray's expression changed to one of surprise. What? When? Derek, isn't this a little too much? I don't recall you called my name. I remember hearing your voice, but you were clearly talking to someone else. Did you call my name? Gray asked to clarify things. Yes, I did. Derek affirmed. Trash, Gray said. Yes, Derek responded to what Gray said. After responding, he paused for a moment and realized Gray was calling him trash, and he even answered. You see, you said your name is Trash. I clearly heard when someone asked you your name, and you replied Trash. So I thought you were speaking to someone else, Gray said playfully. You. Derek almost exploded in anger. He didn't think Gray would dare to trick him. Apollo. You know what, forget about apologizing, 'cause even if you did, I wouldn't forgive you. Derek said. He knew he couldn't beat Gray in a war of words, so he decided to beat him up. Crap. I messed up, I shouldn't have toyed with him. Gray immediately regretted his decision. Before he could even say another word, he saw a change in Derek's appearance. Shit. He cursed inside and prepared himself. Derek mobilized the wind elements in his body and charged towards Gray, stretching out his hands to grab hold of Gray's shoulder. When an elementalist is still in the collection plane, they aren't able to wield the elements outside their bodies, because they've only not collected enough elements, but they've also not fused with their said elements yet. It's only when an elementalist goes above the fusion plane, can they wield it. But while in the collection and fusion plane, they can only use it to improve their strength and speed. Being a wind elementalist, Derek was faster than others in the same stage as himself. Gray sidestepped quickly, and he unexpectedly managed to dodge Derek's grab. Ha! Gray, Derek, as well as the youths watching from the side, all exclaimed in surprise. What just happened? Gray asked himself. Although his motive was to dodge Derek's attack, he knew he couldn't, but he still attempted it since there was no harm in trying. Due to his frequent physical training, he could be said to be fast, even amongst some collection plane elementalist, but in front of a wind elementalist, it wasn't much. He never expected he would be able to dodge the attack. He also noticed his senses were heightened. The youths watching were amazed. Derek couldn't even believe Gray dodged it. He only planned on hitting Gray once or twice, but now he changed his mind and prepared to beat him up properly. Gray, on the other hand, was excited when he thought of what just happened. Don't get cocky, maybe it was a mistake,
he told himself.
Humph. Don't get full of yourself because you were able to dodge my attack, Derek said before attacking once again. He mobilized the wind element in his body and pounced on Gray, throwing a fist at his face. Gray panicked a little when he saw this, but he quickly tried shifting his head to the side, and to his surprise, he was faster than Derek once again. This time, he dodged the attack almost effortlessly. Had it been before, then there was no way he would have been able to dodge the strike due to its speed. Derek didn't stop with this attack. After his fist missed, he immediately tried to hit Gray on the stomach with his knee, but just like before, Gray dodged the attack, only this time he retreated back. Derek kept on attacking, and Gray was like an experienced fighter, easily dodging the strikes. How can he be so fast? One of the youths exclaimed. They knew just how fast Derek was, yet Gray was still able to dodge his attacks.
Stop.
Gray wanted to try to convince Derek to stop attacking, but he was interrupted by his roar.
Ah!
Derek roared in anger. He had been attacking for almost 1 minute now, yet he hadn't been able to touch Gray even once. It was infuriating. On seeing that Derek didn't plan on stopping, Gray knew he shouldn't stay on the defensive anymore. He finally decided to attack if an opportunity presented itself. It didn't take long before the said opportunity showed itself, but being someone who was inexperienced in fighting, he was unable to capitalize on it. Luckily, he was faster than Derek, so it didn't come back to haunt him. Another opportunity presented itself when Derek threw a reckless punch towards him, which was enforced with the wind element. Gray dodged the attack by bending down. After dodging it, Derek's body was completely exposed and defenseless due to his stance. Gray gathered as much energy he could muster and sent a punch towards Derek's chest.
Bam!
His fist connected, and an even more unexpected scene followed right after. Derek's body shot through the air and hit one of the trees that was at the side of the road. He passed out right after. Ha! Gray stood stunned, alternating his gaze between the unconscious Derek, as well as his outstretched fist. That shouldn't be possible, right?
He asked himself.
The youths watching were dumbstruck, their mouth opened so wide that an egg could easily fit right into them. They stared at the unconscious Derek and back at the dazed Gray. After standing for a while, Gray quickly went home. This was his first time he was able to fight back, and he was elated by it. On getting home, he didn't tell his mother of it, not because he wanted to hide it, but since he had refrained from telling her when he was bullied by him, he decided to let the matter go. He took a warm bath before eating dinner, then the thought struck him to try cultivating. Gray immediately tried circulating the energy. He noticed it became easier than the previous time he tried it, and the pain reduced significantly. Wow, guess I shouldn't have stopped my training. Gray was delighted. He immediately started feeling remorseful when he thought about all the days he had to go through pains just to make the energy move. Why didn't they make it known in the scroll? I wouldn't have passed through days of pain, Gray complained bitterly. Although he knew it wouldn't change anything, he didn't want to blame himself for not continuing his training, so he just shifted the blame. Gray was able to complete the second circulation before long. He was exhausted from the hard work and immediately fell asleep. The next day, Gray woke up late in the day. Although it wasn't midday yet, it wasn't far from it. Ah, what a great night! Gray woke up with a huge smile on his face. After having a breakthrough in the circulation, he felt fantastic with himself. Although it wasn't anything big, Gray felt like it was a major accomplishment. He freshened up before going downstairs. He saw Martha just coming into the house. When she saw Gray, she gave him a sweet smile. For some reason, when Gray saw the smile, he felt a chill run down his spine. I haven't done anything wrong lately, have I? Gray started thinking about everything he had done lately and couldn't remember upsetting his mother on any occasion. Gray paused instinctively and slowly retreated to a distance he deemed was safe enough. I'm fine, thanks. How are you doing today? Gray asked with a smile. I must say, you look very beautiful this morning. Before Martha could reply to the question Gray asked, she heard him speak again.
What a glib tongue he has.
Just like his father, Martha sneered coldly in her heart. She knew why he was complimenting her. Whenever he does something wrong, he always does this to get on her good side. Although she never falls for it, she does reduce the punishment she has in mind for him unknowingly. How was your training yesterday? Martha asked with a smile. It was fine. I notice my stamina has gone up a notch since I started cultivating the technique. Although I have not started cultivation fully, I think it wouldn't take long anymore. Oh, and I made some progress in the second circulation. Now all that's left to do is to continue till I reach the 10th 1-inch. Gray spat out everything he did yesterday. He forgot about what happened with Derek as he was too excited over the success of his cultivation breakthrough the previous night. Martha looked at him closely. Why is he hiding it from me, or did he forget about it? No need, I will just ask about it. I was told you sneak attacked Derek yesterday when you were coming back from the forest. Martha studied Gray's reaction closely. Gray was shocked when he heard that, then it all clicked. No wonder she was acting strange, so it was because of the small conflict he had with Derek. Of course not, he wanted to bully me, so I decided to teach him a lesson, he said proudly while sticking out his chest. Martha looked at him not knowing if to laugh or cry. This kid. Well, that was not what he said. He said he was minding his business at the side of the road when you suddenly sneak attacked him while he was distracted. He said you attacked him possibly because you were mad at him when he jokingly called you a trash. Martha recounted what she was told. She knew her son all too well. Although he was mischievous, he wouldn't sneak attack anyone. Well, not for that particular reason though. With his character, he will definitely sneak attack his enemies. Derek can't be counted as an enemy, he isn't even worth Gray's time. Not only that, but she knew of Derek bullying Gray lately, but she didn't interfere since Gray didn't tell her about it. He's lying. Gray defended himself confidently. He knew his mother knew he was right, she was just trying to scare him. Even if he was wrong, he knew she would definitely protect him. Martha looked at him for some time. Oh, tell me what happened. Gray recounted the whole event, from when he was heading out to when he was blocked by Derek. Martha was similarly dumbfounded when she heard how Gray was able to defeat Derek effortlessly. Derek is someone at the 8th stage of the collection plane, just a bit away from the fusion plane. Yet Gray was faster than him. What was more shocking was the fact that Derek is a wind elementalist. She looked at her son, pride filled her heart, but she didn't show it out. If Gray were to know she was proud of him, she didn't know what he might do next. Okay, don't worry about this. I will take care of it. I don't want to hear something like this happened again. Focus fully on your cultivation and try to complete the circulations as soon as possible, so you can start the real cultivation. Martha told him seriously. She really didn't want him to waste his time with all these little things. So long as he can start cultivating for real, I will be happy. Yes, Mom, I will work extra hard, Gray proclaimed with determination. Martha looked at him and nodded in approval on seeing how determined he was. Gray continued his training that day, only now, his routine had changed. He would train in the day and meditate at night. Slowly, time passed and a month quickly went by. Gray didn't hear from Derek or anyone later. He was given a rare moment of peace. He was happy as now all his focus was on his training. During this month, he was able to get to the 7th circle. The more the cycles, the harder it was for him. He was determined, so he didn't stop or give up halfway because he felt it was too hard. He kept on pushing himself to the brink and surpassing himself. Whenever he wants to train, he will set himself as the target to beat. If could do more than what he usually does, then he had successfully surpassed his previous self. Another month went by without any major event taking place. Gray continued his frenzied training and Martha even began worrying over him. There was one time Gray came home looking like someone who had a foot on death's door. She had to make him stay at home for a week to take a rest before he was allowed to continue his training. Even when staying at home, Gray focused fully on meditating. During these 2 months, Gray had been able to complete 9 cycles. Now it was left with the last circle. Once he completes it, he will officially step into the realm of elementalists. Gray was so excited about it and couldn't wait to start manipulating each element. Gray took a break before going for the last circle. He noticed he should always take breaks sometimes, so his body doesn't break down. After the break, he immediately started training and he started moving the energy according to the instructions of the 10th cycle. Each cycle had a different route, so he had to be careful when studying it to avoid making any mistakes. Although they were almost identical, there is always a different route for each cycle. Gray worked hard and after 2 weeks of rigorous training, one night, he finally completed the last cycle. Rumble. A rumbling sound could be heard from Gray's body. After completing the 10th cycle, huge changes started taking place in his body. Gray got in a trance when this happened. He saw a man standing majestically in the air looking down at the world. He had a noble aura spreading in all directions. It was like he was the lord over everything. He stretched out his right hand and all elements could be seen converging at the top of his hands. It was a beautiful sight. The elements formed an orb at the top of his hand. The orb was captivating. But Gray could feel the destructive powers hidden in the beautiful orb. This could be called a beautiful killer. The man spread out his hands wide and the orb exploded. It was a stunning sight and was also beautiful. Gray was surprised by the number of elements the man had control over. The man looked in the direction of Gray and flashed a smile at him. Only after the lights died down did Gray realize they were alone. The man leisurely walked towards him. He studied him for some time before nodding his head. Gray stood nervously and also studied the man in front of him. The man was handsome, with long shoulder-length hair. "What is your name, young boy?" the man asked calmly. Gray replied cautiously. The man raised an eyebrow and stared at him closely. "You were the one who inherited my powers, good. You were just barely able to meet the minimum requirements. You must have a strong body if you want to use the chaos element." Chaos elements? Gray was surprised. Although he didn't know everything, he knew there were only 7 elements in the world, which are fire, water, wind, earth, lightning, darkness, and light elements. He had never heard of this chaos element the mysterious man was talking about.
You don't really need to know much about it for now.
Just have it in the back of your mind. You've inherited the power of the strongest god, the Chaos God, the man said to Gray.
Chaos God.
Gray had read about gods in some books and knew there was a god for each element. But he had never heard of this Chaos God this man was talking about.
Yes, the Chaos God.
He was the strongest among all the gods and was the one who led the gods, the man said. "I've never heard of this Chaos God you speak of," Senior Gray said to him. The man looked at him with a bewildered look. "Is there no record of the Chaos God?" he asked. "No, Senior, after the Great War of Gods, the gods haven't been heard about since then. And that war took place over 100,000 years ago," Gray explained. The man was alarmed. "Seems like another war took place after that one. No wonder they don't know of the Chaos God," he muttered under his breath.
Forget about it for now.
You will get to know more as time goes on. Now, since you have inherited this power, you should already know some things about it." The man asked seriously. "Yes, Senior, I know I can wield all elements with it," Gray replied.
Well, that isn't the strongest aspect of it.
"You still won't be able to form the chaos elements soon," the man said with a smile. "Okay, so can I start using the elements now?" Gray asked excitedly. He didn't care about the Chaos God or the Chaos element. What was important for him now was if he could use the elements. Although he was curious about it, it wasn't too important to him. "No," the man answered.
What? Gray exclaimed. "No," the man said again.
"But it's stated in the scroll that I will be able to control all elements," Gray quickly spoke. He had already envisioned how he would control all the elements. Now, this man was telling him he can't use the elements now. "I know, but it isn't that easy. The human body wasn't supposed to have an affinity with all elements, so it will take some time and hard work from you," the man said while looking at Gray. "Hard work? I've been working so hard just to be able to hone my body, yet you're telling me I will still get to do more hard work." Gray was feeling down. He had already worked so hard from his view, yet he will still work more just to get what was promised to him. He thought he already had everything in his hands. Who knew he was holding on to clouds? "You don't expect it to be that easy, right?" the man said with a chuckle. Gray felt scammed. "Senior, can I have only one element and just forget about all this?"
Gray asked.
Although the idea of wielding all elements sounded great, if he had to wait for another 15 or even 20 years, it wouldn't be nice. If he can have one element, he will be satisfied. He wasn't greedy, okay, he wasn't too greedy. But he feels like it wouldn't be worth it to have all elements if he had to wait for so long. What if he died because he couldn't control any elements? The man looked at Gray, speechless. "How can you settle for less?"
He couldn't help but ask.
"I'm not settling for less, I'm just doing the more reasonable thing from my view. I'm already behind my peers in terms of cultivation, so if I take much longer, I might as well just give up on the rest and have 1 inch," Gray reasoned. The man looked at Gray for some time before sighing helplessly. "Oh, so all I have to do is comprehend the elements?" Gray asked with an excited look. "Why didn't you say this earlier, instead of scaring me?" Gray thought. "Don't think it will be easy. Comprehending elements and being born with a given element are 2 different things. Comprehension is harder, and your talent in the element will tally with your comprehension. If your comprehension is low for the element, your talent and control over it will also be low," he patiently explained to Gray.
"It shouldn't be that hard.
How can I get into this space?" Gray said naively before asking the important question. For him, he didn't think it would be hard for him to comprehend the elements. What he was bothered about was how to get here. The man looked at him and didn't reply. He knew how hard it was to comprehend an element, and also, he didn't want to give Gray a scare. So he just let him be. "Just will it, and you can come here any time," the man said. "Okay," Gray replied happily. Since he now knew how he can get here, everything was settled. "Oh, I haven't told you the strongest aspect of it yet, the man suddenly said. Gray looked at him with interest. Elemental fusion, he said with a smile. Elemental fusion? Gray's interest was piqued when he heard this. The man knew he would have to explain it to Gray, so he patiently explained to him, yes, elemental fusion. As the name implies, this power gives you the ability to fuse elements. After being able to fuse all elements, you will then be able to create the chaos element, which is a combination of all elements and also the strongest element. Gray was shocked when he heard this, so the chaos element is a fusion of all elements. Was that what I saw you did earlier? Gray asked. He remembered seeing the man forming an orb at the top of his outstretched hand. It was as beautiful as it was dangerous. Yes, what you saw me create was the chaos element. The man didn't hide anything from him and told him more about it. How can there be such an overpowered element? Also, elements can be fused together. Gray was astounded by what he was hearing, and also excited. Doesn't that mean he will have such an amazing ability? Not only will he be able to use all elements, but he will also be able to fuse them. And once again, Gray started envisioning himself when he was using the chaos element and couldn't help but cackle maniacally. The man looked at him and couldn't help but sigh. What sort of fellow inherited this power? He started pitying the world because an overpowered moron will soon be let loose. He held a moment of silence for everyone. He knew Gray was a determined person as he was able to train himself to reach the requirements stated. If he knew Gray didn't do it on purpose, he would be dismayed. Gray kept smiling in a silly manner. The man just looked at him, lost of words. He just ascertained Gray was a total nutcase. Stop smiling and listen up, I will be gone soon. There are things you should be aware of. The man tried to turn the atmosphere serious once again. If he were still alive, he was sure he would probably beat Gray up. No wait, he will definitely beat Gray up. Okay senior, I'm all ears. Gray tried to calm down when he noticed how serious the man was. He will be gone soon. Where is he going? Gray thought in his heart. Comprehending each element isn't as simple as you think it is. For you to have perfect control over it, you have to know everything about it. You have to be one with the element. Being one with the element is the highest level of comprehension. Although you're still far away from this level, the man looked at Gray before continuing, you should also know that the higher you comprehend the elements, the faster your cultivation speed. Gray listened closely and felt stupefied by what he was hearing. Senior, doesn't that mean, unlike the rest people who have a fixed talent for their said element, mine isn't fixed? Yes, that's basically the point. Of course, it can only increase if you can have a high comprehension of the said element, he explained patiently as a teacher would to his student. Gray had a solemn look and started having a feeling it won't really be that easy to have a high comprehension of the elements. When the man saw Gray's look, he started having a different opinion of him. Seems like he has finally realized how hard things are going to be. He nodded in approval in his heart. You can actually start cultivating now. You were originally born with an affinity with an element, the man said. Gray was overjoyed when he heard this, so he had an element also. This made him calm his mind. At least now he wouldn't start from scratch when he wanted to start comprehending each element. The more elements you comprehend, the faster your cultivation speed grows. Meaning if you can comprehend 2 elements, your cultivation speed will double. And your talent also matters, he said with a slightly calmer tone. When Gray heard this, he was beside himself with joy. Doesn't that mean I will improve at a faster pace? Gray asked just to be sure he heard correctly. Yes you will, the man replied. Ha 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 ha. Gray laughed crazily. Well, there goes the good impression he had managed to build of himself. The man stared at Gray and couldn't believe how quickly he changes his demeanor. Sigh, forget it. He is already here. He was mentally exhausted from his conversation with this young boy. After Gray finished his wild imagination, he quickly composed himself. Senior, you said you would be gone soon? Gray asked. Yes, I'm just a spiritual being currently. I have already died long ago, the man replied calmly without any emotions. Death was something not even the gods could avoid. Although if they were left alone they could live almost forever, wars were a brutal and bitter part of the world. You are dead. Gray view on life was once again shattered. You don't have to say anything about it. It is something that happened long ago. Now, I will tell you how to perfectly use this space, the man slowly explained to Gray. Gray listened keenly as he knew, once this senior disappears, he will never see him again. He felt bad for him, but this wasn't the time to think about it. Gray was able to find out how to use the chaos space. It wasn't really that hard. All you have to do is think of the element you wish to comprehend, and you will see it. There was also an object used for checking talents. It was just like the one he saw when he went for the test, only this was more sophisticated. Well, that is all you need to know. Remember, this won't be easy. And always be careful of how many elements you show people. You can show multiple, but not too many, okay? You will be surprised how far greed can push people, he warned Gray sincerely. The man looked at Gray with eyes of encouragement. Train well. Oh. And don't forget to train your body as well. Don't allow the elements to hone it for you, that is the wrong path, he said while fading slowly. Yes, senior, I'm already used to it. So now, I can't really go a day with doing a little training, Gray said. Senior, how can I leave? Gray hurriedly asked, wouldn't it be embarrassing if he couldn't leave this space? Just will it, and you can leave, he said while shaking his head with a smile. What an interesting young boy. Okay, senior, do take care. Oh, sorry, my bad. Gray wanted to wish him well before he remembered he was already dead. Gray had an embarrassed smile while waving goodbye to him. The man laughed when he saw this. Before fading away completely, Gray looked at the place. The man faded with a look of melancholy. He stayed in the space for some time before leaving and returning to the real world. When he returned, he looked around calmly. He knew his life will change completely from this day. Wait, let me take a look at which element I'm attuned with naturally, he suddenly remembered and went back into the space. Gray stood before the stone nervously. He had waited for 3 years, he had suffered countless insults all for this day. With a heart of expectation, he placed his hand on the stone. Just like what he experienced the last time, he felt an unknown energy entering into his body from the stone. After it circulated around his body, it went back to the stone. Gray waited patiently for it to read the results. After a minute, the stone lit up. Gray was slack-jawed when he saw the result. His heart couldn't stop racing. Fuck, what sort of shit luck is this? How can I have a pink talent? Gray immediately cursed out. It was depressing. After waiting for so long, this was what he saw. A pink talent. Although he had a great element, it was annoying. He had a lightning element, but with a pink talent, if it had been orange, he would have at least managed it. Besides, his element was rare, but pink. If people knew about this, he would be a laughingstock. He was already being laughed at for not having an affinity. Now that he awakened it after so long, it was a pink talent. Well, at least this is better than having no element. Gray sighed, although somewhat dejectedly. He immediately left the chaos space and went to sleep. The next morning, Gray got up early. Although he still felt dejected because of his talent, he couldn't hide his joy of being able to finally cultivate. Now all he needs is a cultivation technique for his element. He still wanted to join an academy though, but with his current talent, that's not happening. I will improve my talent, that way they will accept me even though I awakened late. Gray already had a plan in his heart. He would first comprehend the lightning element to improve his talent, then after that, he will join the academy to have a better cultivation technique. The cultivation technique which followed the pearl was only for the circulation. Now, he needs a technique for each element separately. The higher the grade of the technique, the faster he can cultivate. Gray washed up and went downstairs. He saw his meal was on the table and quickly wolfed it down before heading out. Gray initially wanted to try comprehending the lightning element, but he decided against it. I will continue my training for now. Gray left the house for his usual training session and came back earlier than usual. Gray, why did you come back this early? Martha inquired when she saw him coming home early. I couldn't concentrate, so I just came back home, Gray replied. Martha looked at her son for some time. Did something happen? Gray knew he couldn't hide anything from her, so he just told her what happened. On his way to training, he was blocked by Derek and his squad. Although they didn't fight, he was mocked by them. What annoyed him the most was when he remembered the fact that he had pink talent, so there was no use talking about it. Gray wasn't someone who acts out of anger, so he was able to restrain himself from fighting. But due to his youth and hot-bloodedness, he told them he would be taking part in the test that was going to take place in 3 months. He was laughed at by them. Derek laughed so much and said he would tell the entire city about it. Martha looked at Gray and shook her head. Will you be able to complete the 10th circulation before then? She knew how hard it was to complete each circle, and Gray also told her the process gets harder with each circle. Martha wasn't aware Gray had already completed it the previous day. Gray hadn't been able to tell her. He planned on telling her tonight during dinner. Mom, I completed it yesterday, Gray said. Gray recounted everything that happened, including telling her about the man and also the chaos element. Martha was left stunned by this information. She was surprised by the fact that Gray could increase his talent. But what truly surprised her was that Gray's original elemental affinity was the rare lightning element. Although it was only a pink grade talent, it wasn't really bad since the element was unique. She felt genuinely happy for her son, and teardrops unknowingly left her eyes. She knew just how much Gray had suffered for this. If she was given an option, she would never have allowed her husband to do this. Now her little boy will be able to show them all who was the most talented. What got her reeling was the fact that with Gray's ability to be able to improve his talent, if he could get a purple talent before the test, he would definitely be fought over by the academy and might even attract attention from the higher-ups of the empire. Having a lightning element is something which rarely happens, adding to the fact that the owner is a purple talent, that will give him more attention. The lightning element is as destructive as the fire element, and it also gives the user almost unparalleled speed, which is also one of the advantages of the wind element. It is sometimes regarded as a two-in-one element. She didn't have any techniques for the lightning element, and getting one would be difficult. But if Gray was able to join any of the academies, he will be able to get a high-grade technique.
Gray, you have to work hard.
If you can push your talent to purple before the test, that would be great, Martha said. Yes, Mom, I know what to do. Gray already planned this. He will work hard to improve his talent before the teat, then shock the entire city with his results. Gray left Martha before heading to his room. He tried meditating but to no avail. So he just gave up and started reminiscing about how he had been treated by everyone in the city. He was mocked and abused by everyone. His so-called friends stopped talking to him because he wasn't an elementalist. He was downcast during that time, but his mother has always been there with him all the time. She was his backbone when he couldn't stand up straight. She made sure she did everything she could to assist him. She was his greatest support. Mom, we will show the world how wrong they are soon. Gray clenched his fist tightly. Even if he doesn't want to do this for himself, he has to do it for his mother. He is grateful to his mother. If not for her, he would have still been down, wallowing in self-pity. He promised himself he was going to make his mother proud. Not only that, but he would be her source of joy. The best is the only thing he wishes for her. After this test, his life would change completely. His social status will also change. He imagined the look of shock that will be written in the faces of everyone when he gets the test done. How would they react? I can't wait to find out. Gray smiled to himself. He was going to give it his all. The news of Gray taking the test quickly spread over the entire city. Gray was pretty famous in the city, due to not being an elementalist. They really didn't expect Gray would still be hopeful in awakening his element. It's already been so long, yet he still thinks he can awaken it. Some were pessimistic about it and felt Gray just wanted to make a fool of himself. Others felt there might be a good chance he might awaken. They all couldn't wait for the next test to happen. What would happen that day was unknown. But what they knew was that there is certainly going to be a scene that day, and they were all looking forward to it. People hate being bored, so when they knew something was going to happen, they can't help but be excited. They don't care if it's the misfortune of others, so long as it doesn't affect them, they're good with it. Nothing major has happened in the city since the time Jonas rose to fame and Gray fell during the test 3 years ago. Although Gray retaking the test wasn't anything major, at least it will give them something to talk about for some time, regardless of the outcome. Gray started his hard training once again, only this time, all his focus was placed on trying to comprehend the lightning element. Before he started, he knew it would be hard. Well, currently, he is cursing the man for not telling him how hard it was. Actually, the man clearly told him. But he wasn't really paying attention at that time, so when he heard it, he didn't think it will be hard. He was in an overexcited state. The man didn't expect him to clearly remember everything he was told right. Fuck. This is impossible. I've been studying this for so long now but still have no results. Gray was feeling dejected. Who knew comprehending would be so hard? What was worse was the fact that this was the element he was aligned with. How hard would the other elements be then? Well, he really didn't want to find out any time soon. For the past 3 days, Gray had been coming to the chaos space to try to comprehend the lightning element, but no advances had been made. He had stared at it so much that even when he closes his eyes, all he sees is lightning. Gray left the chaos space and tried to relax his mind. He slowly started thinking about lightning and how it is. After 1 hour, he got nothing. Will I have to disgrace myself in front of everyone again? Even though he had awakened an element, he was already getting past the perfect time of cultivating. The only thing that might probably be able to help him will be his rare element, but he doesn't want that. He wants to enter the academy with a good position, good talent, and also with pride. How would the students feel if someone who can be referred to as a late bloomer still has such low talent? He would be a laughingstock again. Gray calmed himself. He still had time. There is no need to think about all this now. He didn't want anything to discourage him, so this was the best option. Eliminating negative thoughts can be hard, but not impossible. Martha had been less worried about Gray since she knew he had awakened an element. Although poor talent, it doesn't really matter with that ability of his. She knew as long as Gray set his mind to it, he will surely succeed. She knew how stubborn he can get when he wants something, and also, she knew just how badly Gray wanted this. The few people close to her had brought up the topic of Gray wanting to take the test again, and some even advised her against it. They felt if the result was the same, Gray might really break down. It has been tough for him all these years. If the result once again showed the same result of him having no affinity, the consequences would be worse than the first time. She told them all it wasn't her decision, and Gray wasn't a child anymore. He can make some decisions for himself now. Since he said he wanted to retake the test, he definitely has his reasons. And he had assured me that regardless of the result, it wouldn't affect him much. They looked at her and felt she was just as rash as her child. Some even left angrily thinking she didn't want to hear what they wanted to say. Martha didn't try to stop them. She knew they had her best interest at heart, but they will definitely understand when the time came. She saw how hard Gray was trying to comprehend the element, so he could increase his talent. Regardless of everything, she was really happy seeing how hard-working Gray was. At dinner, Gray told her how difficult it was for him to comprehend the element. You don't expect to be successful right off the bat, do you? Everything takes time and perseverance. No one wakes up an overnight success. You might be talented but lazy. Someone who has an average talent will surely surpass you if he is hardworking. Strive to be the best you can, never compare yourself with others. Behind every successful individual, there are countless days of pure hard work. Remember this, people don't care about the battle, only the result. Martha advised him gently. She knew what Gray needs now is time. With time, he can achieve it all. So she wants to ensure he doesn't rush when doing things lest he makes a mistake. Gray looked at his mother for a long time and her words resounded in his head continuously. Sometimes, he feels his mother is too wise for someone her age. He never says this out though. He knew just how fierce she was. There was this one time she froze his father because they were having an argument. Martha is a water elementalist, so she also has the ability to freeze things. She had never told him her grade or what grade her talent is, but he knew it was definitely not lower than purple. It might even be higher. But he is definitely scared of her. Well, scared really isn't the right word. He prefers using the term respect. Gray never tries to upset her, because she just freezes his legs to the ground and according to her, trains him to her heart's content. That way, there is no way for him to run. It's been a week since Gray started trying to comprehend the lightning element, and so far well, he hasn't made any progress yet. But he didn't feel down though. Every day, he tries harder than the previous day. He really wants to comprehend it badly. If he could make a little progress, it will definitely increase his talent. Although he didn't know what grade it will get to, but he knew it wouldn't stay at the pink grade. Also, having a little bit of understanding will pave the way for him for his future comprehension. It's like building a house. Once you get the foundation done, it becomes easier.
Well, so he thought.
Gray didn't rush things and took it slowly. He knew since it was with him, he will definitely succeed someday. Since he hadn't made any progress, he decided to head out and train since it has been quite some time he did. The next day, Gray prepared and went over to the forest to train as usual. Midday while he was still training, it suddenly started raining. Gray immediately went over to a cave close to where he usually trains. He found this one day when it was about to rain, he couldn't head home, so he found somewhere to wait it out. It quickly started raining heavily.
Rumble.
The sound of thunder immediately reverberated in the sky.
Boom.
Gray suddenly couldn't hear anything, his ear was ringing continuously. He immediately ran out of the cave and stood outside in the rain. When he looked at his left, he saw some part of the ground was scorched black. That was what entered his mind when he saw it.
Rumble.
Gray once again heard the sound of thunder and looked up. He saw lightning flashing in the sky like it was doing a dance. Crash. The lightning struck a place far from Gray, but he saw everything clearly. Gray stood completely still, not moving even after 10 minutes. He was in a trance. When he saw the display of the lightning and how it struck, he suddenly had an epiphany. The scene kept on playing in his head, from the fast movement to its destructive power. Everything kept repeating itself.
After some time, it stopped.
What a pity. If I can have this feeling once more, I will definitely be able to improve my talent to purple grade. Gray said sadly. This wasn't a total waste though, he learned some things from witnessing it himself. Although the chaos space is amazing, it wasn't the real deal. So there is a major difference with how you feel both. But with this as reference, he can finally start making progress in his understanding of the lightning element. After it stopped raining, Gray decided to stop training. Besides, he had trained for some time already. He was also eager to see if this little progress of his will make any changes to his talent. On his way back to the city, he noticed the gate was crowded. He curiously walked over to see what was going on. When he got there, he couldn't see anything as the crowd was just too much. "Good day, mister. Please can you tell me what is going on?" Gray asked a man on the scene. The man looked at Gray before shifting his gaze away, not even bothering to answer him. The man didn't know Gray, but he just didn't care. Well, what a scum, Gray cursed angrily before walking to search for someone else to tell him what was going on. After asking around, he found out Jonas returned from the academy. This was the first time he had come back to the city since joining the Starlight Academy. Gray still had an impression of Jonas. I mean, who wouldn't have an impression of someone with a purple talent? Gray remembered the envious look he gave Jonas when he saw how all the academies were fighting over him. He also found out Jonas would be staying until the test. Why did he come at this time? Couldn't he come after the test? Gray suddenly felt pressured. If it were before, even if he had an orange talent, he wouldn't care since he can improve it with time. But now, Jonas came. The only person who has ever had a purple talent in the history of the city. Just to be clear, Martha isn't from the city. He currently lorded over all in this little city. Even in the big cities, he was still someone with a high status. No one likes being in the shadow of anyone. Had Jonas not appeared, Gray would have been satisfied with an orange talent. But now, he wanted more. He had to get his talent up to purple, no matter what. Gray went home with new conviction, and the fire in his heart was burning fervently. He immediately wanted to see how far his bit of comprehension took him. After getting home, he went straight to his room and sat in a meditative position. After calming his racing heart filled with expectation, he entered the chaos space. He went over to check if his grade improved. After placing his hand on the stone, he waited for it to do what it usually does. The energy circled his body before returning to the stone. When Gray looked at the result, his face fell. He still had pink grade talent. Although he came with expectations, he also knew it wouldn't be that easy after trying to comprehend it for so long. One moment of epiphany couldn't do the trick. Well, unless he stayed in the state for long. While this was happening to Gray at home, the city was abuzz with discussions. And the name mentioned the most was Jonas. Jonas was not the only name mentioned. Gray's name was also in the mouth of many because he was going to retake the test. With the arrival of Jonas, everyone remembered they both took the test on the same day. With one being fought over by the academies, and the other most likely not remembering how he even left the arena. Jonas got word of the fact that Gray was going to retake the test. He clearly remembered that lonely figure who stood at the platform stunned. Interesting. Initially, Jonas had no plans of attending the test even if he was around. He had better things to do. If not for wanting to meet his parents, he wouldn't have come to this low-classes city. He also enjoyed the feeling of being adored by the people here, and idolized by the kids. The city quietened down after some time. Everyone went back to what they were doing. Although there was still some places where the issue of Gray retaking the test was still talked about, it wasn't really much. Gray didn't think of any other thing and focused fully on comprehending the lightning element. Since he already made a breakthrough, it would be easier. Wait, saying easier will give people the wrong idea. It would be less hard. Now that's better. It got less hard for him, and he saw some improvements as he studied the element more. In this fashion, 1 month quickly went in a flash. The pressure on Gray increased as it got closer to the time of the test. Now he had only 2 months left. He had to make significant improvements within these 2 months to ensure he makes his mother proud. Gray didn't know if he can make it in time, but he knew he was going to try his best no matter what. It took him so long just to have any improvements in the element he was more attuned with. Just how long will it take to comprehend other elements' turn? Gray was tired but not frustrated. He knew by increasing his talent and also having another element, it would increase his cultivation speed. This way, he would be able to catch up and quickly surpass his peers who started cultivating before him. All he needed is time. Only, time waits for no man. Fortunately, elementalists gets to live long the higher their level. So he still has a lot of time on his hands. Gray noticed he had made good progress during this month, so he decided it was time to check if his talent increased. After entering the chaos space, he walked towards the stone slowly. He stood there feeling apprehensive for some time. He slowly breathed out, before placing his hands on the stone. Once again, the unknown energy went into his body from the stone. After going a circle in his body, it went back to the stone. Gray nervously looked on waiting for the result, his heart pounding with anticipation. After some time, the stone lit up. Gray looked at the stone in front of him without having any reactions for some time. Finally, a huge grin broke out of his face. After trying for so long, he finally made some progress. His talent has increased from pink grade to orange grade. Gray felt like he was in a dream. If it wasn't happening to him, he would never have believed it even if he was beaten close to death. Okay, not really, He wouldn't allow himself to get beaten up that badly just because he didn't believe it, at least if he said he believed he would be free to go right. Gray was initially already beginning to have some doubts. Although he could see it all happening, nothing seemed to change. If not for the fact that he awakened an element, he would have thought this was just a sham. Gray left the chaos space. He wanted to share his new progress with his mother. Unfortunately, when he went downstairs, she wasn't around.
Where did she go to? Oh well, I will tell her the good news once she returns.
Martha returned late, looking exhausted. When Gray saw her, "Mom, are you okay?"
He walked up to her.
When she saw him, she tried to hide her weariness but just couldn't. "I'm fine dear, give me a sec. I'll go prepare dinner," she smiled to him. Gray looked at her and didn't say anything more. He knew it hasn't been easy for her and didn't want to make her feel sad. "Don't worry Mom, I've made dinner already," Gray told her gently. Martha was slightly taken aback when she heard this. A sweet smile bloomed on her face. "How thoughtful of you, young man," she said in a praising tone. "Taking care of you is my duty. Now, go freshen up before you come back down for dinner," Gray said gentlemanly. Martha laughed when she saw how Gray was acting. No matter how tired she feels, whenever she sees Gray, it just feels like all the fatigue fades away. "What a great son you have." When Martha was on her way upstairs, she heard Gray make this statement and nearly fell down. Can't he just be normal for once? Although she thought of this, she didn't really want that. Gray was her light, and she likes the cheerful him. If he suddenly starts behaving like people usually do, he wouldn't be fun to be with. Gray always makes her laugh, so she enjoys his company a lot. Martha returned after taking a bath. By the time she got down, Gray had already prepared the table. They sat together and started eating. Martha couldn't deny it, Gray was a great cook. But she restrained herself from praising him. "I'm such a great cook," Gray exclaimed after doing the dishes. Martha rolled her eyes when she heard this. "At least let someone praise you first. Gray really is one of a kind. But he is always a great company." "Mom, I have good news for you," Gray said with a mysterious smile.
"Oh, what is it?"
Martha raised her brow when she heard Gray. "Well, I managed to advance to an orange talent today," Gray said with a proud face. Really, Martha was stunned when she heard this. But quickly, it turned to joy. Gray being able to increase his talent is something unbelievable, but she knew Gray would never lie to her. He probably wouldn't even think of it. He really is scared of her. "Congratulations, that's great news," Martha congratulated him happily. "Mom, I'm aiming for a purple talent before the test," Gray told her his aim. Martha looked at Gray. "Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Having an orange talent is already considered good. Especially with that element of yours." Not that she wanted to discourage him, but she knew sometimes it was best to take it easy. "Don't worry Mom, I'm confident about this. If I can't make it before the test, I'll just make it after it." "It's no big deal," Gray assured her. "I'm definitely going to make it before the test," Gray declared in his heart. "Okay baby, remember to your health comes first. Don't overwork yourself," Martha said with care. Gray has always been her pride and joy. She still remembered how happy she was the day of his birth. "What a rascal," she said in her heart when she remembered just how troublesome he was as a child. The time for the test was getting closer with each passing day. The test will take place in another 2 weeks. The kids who have reached the age for the test were all excited, as after the test, they will start their own journey. They were all filled with anticipation towards the test and couldn't wait for it. This usually happens every year. The new kids will be filled with expectation towards their new journey. Not all the kids get into the academies though. Since some have low talents, they are picked up by some lower powers in the empire. Only a few of the kids with pink talent actually get admitted into the academies. However, the majority of the kids with orange talent gets into the academies. A lot of lives would change after this test, just like how it happens every other year. The academies are the meeting ground for the young people all over the empire. Apart from the emperor's faction, the academies are the next in terms of strength. But they are always below the empire. They have groomed a lot of powerhouses for the empire. The academies can virtually be said to be an important part of the empire. The emperor's faction can't reach out to every part of the empire. This is where the academies come in. Although they can't be said to have reached every single part of the empire, they have a larger network compared to the empire. Gray's full attention has been placed on his training lately that he even forgets about eating sometimes. As the time edged closer, the voice in his head got louder. The voice was telling him to make sure he gets to purple talent before the test starts. He still has hope though, there's still 2 weeks left. Gray was very determined and didn't want anything to stop him from doing it. He really wanted this, so he has to work extra hard. Martha didn't disturb him as she knew with the time of the test getting closer, he needs to be fully focused. If he can make an improvement, it will certainly do him more good. Having a purple talent and an affinity with the lightning element, it would attract a lot of attention from the academies and also the empire. Although the fire element is just as destructive, due to the fast nature of lightning and also its ability to electrocute people, it has a very high view for the people. Lightning can shock, burn, and also has the ability to paralyze people. So it can be said to have a higher firepower than the fire element all round. Martha always tries her best to support Gray. He has been working really hard lately, he can do it. Gray didn't forget to hone his body also, he was very diligent in his training. He always heads out to train every 5 days. He had crossed paths with Jonas during one of the times he went out to train, but nothing was said between them. Gray didn't even recognize Jonas. He had only seen him once, so he really can't be blamed for it. He hadn't made any improvements since the previous time, he knew it would be hard, but he wasn't giving up. Gray has been hoping to see lightning once again. He had a feeling that if he could see it, he would be able to get a deeper understanding of the element. Lightning is something that can only be seen when it is storming. It doesn't always appear when it rains also. Also, the few times it has rained, even when there's lightning, he isn't as lucky as that day. Besides, no one would wish for lightning to strike their house. It was already 3 days left before the day of the test. Gray still hadn't made any progress. He didn't want to give up like this, he would continue until the day of the test. He must try harder. At dinner, Gray asked if Martha knew of a way to attract lightning towards a particular spot, or she knew of a place that attracts lightning to it. "Why are you asking this?" Martha inquired. "I want to see a lightning strike. I feel if I can see it, I will help me in deepening my comprehension towards it," Gray said. "Don't you have the chaos space? You can comprehend it there, right?" Martha asked. "Yes, but due to the uniqueness of the element, it's hard. And I can't feel it in the chaos space," Gray explained. Martha mused for some time. "I know of a place, but before I tell you, you must promise me you won't even think of getting close if I find a place for you." Martha knew her son too well. Given how daring Gray was, she is over 80% confident he truly might go close to it. "Relax, Mom, I won't put my life at risk. I will only take a look from a distance away," Gray reassured. He knew she would definitely know of a place which attracts lightning. If he knows of this place, it would be helpful, well, as long as it storms. "Okay, I know how wise you are," Martha said with a sneer. Gray knew she still hasn't believed him, so he continued convincing her. Luckily, Martha loved him a lot and quickly gave in. She told him the place where lightning strikes a lot. Gray was happy after finding out the location. It was said lightning always strike that particular mountain top whenever it storms. No one knows the reason or cause of it, but it had been happening for long. They have investigated it, but they came back empty-handed. Gray immediately made up his mind, he will go check out the place tomorrow. That way he would know what to do next when it storms. Hopefully, it storms before the test. This is my only hope now. I should be able to make it in time. I think Gray wasn't too optimistic about his chances of progressing though, but he knew he could get a sudden realization and progress immediately, so he hasn't given up hope. Gray went to his room. He entered the chaos space to comprehend more. Although he would be heading out tomorrow, it didn't mean he shouldn't continue his training schedule. Gray has already gotten used to always training before bed. In fact, he can be said to be a maniac with how he trains. Gray headed into the forest he usually trains in. Surprisingly, the location was in this forest. His mom told him very few people knew of lightning striking the mountain top. Only the higher-ups of the city knew of it. The mountain was in a deeper region of the forest. Although he had been to the forest for a long time, he never tried to head deeper into the forest. There were magical beasts in the forest. The magical beasts were also attuned with elements, and some of them are even better at using it than humans. The mountain wasn't too deep into the forest, that was why Martha was able to tell him freely. If it was too deep in, she won't be comfortable telling him about the place as he might be in danger if he encounters a magical beast. Gray cautiously headed deeper into the forest. He had to be careful as sometimes, magical beasts do come out from deep in the forest. After 30 minutes, Gray has already gone deep into the forest. The trees were really high and looked old. "They must have been here for a long time," Gray muttered while placing his hands on the old tree. Gray looked at the trees. He couldn't take his hands off it when he placed them on it. It was like he could hear the heartbeat of the tree from the earth. He traced his hands down the tree towards the earth. He felt the solidity and support of the earth. It was able to support everything and all the trees could depend on it. The earth was regarded as the sturdiest element. Gray had a little beat of understanding with the element and for some time, his heart was breathing in the same rhythm as the earth. What a wonderful feeling. He felt strong at that moment. His eyes glowed with a dark brown color for some time before returning to normal. The earth element truly was resilient and was also the best element in terms of defense. How great would it be if I can awaken the earth element? That would make me almost perfect for now. With great attack and great defense, Gray said with a smile. He was completely aware of the brown glow that flashed through his eyes for some time. Gray really didn't think this short realization would help him awaken the earth element for him. He continued his journey into the deeper parts of the forest. This is the deepest he had gone into the forest since he started coming here. Shortly, a huge mountain appeared in front of him. The mountain was over 1,200 meters high, and it extended over a range of 300 miles. Gray stood at the foot of the mountain looking towards the top of the mountain. He began climbing the mountain. The mountain was rough, so he couldn't hurry while climbing it. The top of the mountain had an empty space. It looked very smooth, probably because of after being struck by lightning for too long. Gray reached the top of the mountain after some time. He felt a stinging wind hitting him hard. He looked into the distance from the top of the mountain. The forest extended as far as his eyes could see. This really was a huge mountain. He wouldn't dare to go into the deepest part of it. He was curious about it though. The mountain had a high concentration of the lightning element. Although Gray hadn't started cultivating yet, he can still feel how high the lightning concentration in the mountain is. Due to the high concentration of the lightning element in the mountain, Gray was able to feel some sort of closeness to it. This is really a great place. Even without any lightning descending, I can clearly feel the lightning element. This mountain could be regarded as a paradise for all lightning elementalists. The element could even be felt in the air. It was amazing. Gray felt great. If he could stay here frequently, he can increase his comprehension on the element. Gray sat in a meditative state and tried feeling the lightning element in the air. He focused intensely on the element. While Gray was in a meditative state, the lightning element in the air immediately got attracted to him. His body was like a magnet towards the element. Even the mountain had a reaction. The lightning element gathered in the mountain started moving towards Gray. Gray couldn't feel anything as he was fully immersed in meditation. Some earth element also moved towards him, although a little, it still moved towards him. Gray stayed in a meditative state for 3 hours without making any movements. He got out of the meditative state and decided to head home. What a wondrous feeling! Gray felt greatly surprised by the feeling he got. He even felt somewhat intoxicated by it. He almost couldn't draw himself out of meditation. Gray headed home. This was a fruitful experience for him. He couldn't wait to come back tomorrow. Gray decided he won't check if he made any improvements. He will wait till the test and see what he got. He needed someone to protect him if he wanted to stay longer. He had to always remain vigilant when he was meditating, although he forgot himself sometimes. It was his first time, so the feeling took him by surprise. Gray went to bed early. He wanted to go quicker tomorrow, so he can comprehend for a longer time. He truly enjoyed the feeling and wanted to feel it again. Gray got up the next morning and headed towards the mountain in high enthusiasm. This was the last day before the test. He had to make good use of the day. He meditated for a long time before heading home. Soon, the next day reached. The day for the test have finally reached after waiting for so long. Gray got up early like usual. This is the day it all changes. The city was filled with activity since today was the day of the test. All the kids that are 12 years old were all excited. A lot of people attended the test this time. Could it be the number of children participating in this test is greater than the number we usually get for the previous tests? This was the thought going through the mind of each representative. Even the elder in charge of testing was also surprised by the number of people present today. He couldn't hold himself back and asked someone if something else was going on. "Excuse me, is something going on?" He asked someone by the side. "Do you remember the boy who didn't have an affinity with any element 4 years ago at the test?" The stranger asked. "Yes, I do," he answered. It was quite easy to remember Gray. Since what happened to Gray was something rarely seen, so a lot of people present that day still remember him clearly. What does that have to do with what is happening? He asked again. He couldn't see why there would be this much people just because of something that happened 4 years ago. "Well, I heard he will be coming to take the test today. A lot of people didn't come back then and heard about what happened from others. So this time, they all wanted to see what will happen," the stranger replied. "So it's like that, huh?" He still remembered how shocked he was when he saw the result of Gray's test. He even had to tell him to retake it just to confirm if the first result was true or if he was just seeing things. Only after the same thing showed up did he confirm the result was real. After he heard this, he went over to the representatives of the academies and told them why the arena was filled up today. "Humph, I see no reason why they're all making a fuss over nothing. The result will be the same. Why would he want to humiliate himself once again?" One of the representatives spoke coldly. The other representatives thought the same as well. Someone who couldn't awaken his elemental affinity at the age of 12 years old will most likely be unable to do so for the rest of his life. This happens to very few people, and out of every 2,000 people it happens to, only one of them might be able to awaken his elemental affinity later on in his life. This was the reason they didn't have any hopes of Gray being able to awaken his element again. You might be wrong. What if he is a late bloomer? It's not like someone has never done it before, so you shouldn't just count him out just yet, one of the representatives said calmly. Even he knew how hard it is, but that doesn't mean this boy can't create a miracle.
Humph, we shall see then.
But this boy better not waste our time, another one of the representatives said. Most of the representatives felt allowing Gray to take the test was a waste of time, but they also knew there was a small possibility that he might truly be able to awaken his element. Who doesn't want to be a witness to something that amazing? People who awaken their elements later than usual are always strong-willed. Not everyone will have the courage to come and retake the test after not being able to awaken their elements the time they were supposed to. Look, it's Jonas, someone suddenly exclaimed with a high-pitched voice. The noisy arena quickly quietened down. They all looked at the same location simultaneously.
It truly is Jonas. Wow. Look how cool he is.
I hope I can also have a purple talent once I take the test. The arena immediately got noisy once again. A lot of kids look up to Jonas. They felt since he can have a purple talent, they too can have it. Jonas was like a god in the eyes of the kids. Jonas walked calmly without any changes in his face.
He looked calm and confident.
He walked towards where the representatives of the academies were seated close to the platform. Even the mayor of the city wouldn't dare to walk towards the representatives so leisurely. These were people from the academies. They were people at a place the mayor can only dream of reaching. Whenever he sees them, he always has to be polite towards them. Jonas walked towards the representative from the Starlight Academy and sat close to him without saying anything. The man didn't utter a word when he saw Jonas and even smiled calmly. Although he felt he lost face when Jonas didn't even bother to acknowledge him, there was nothing he could do. Jonas' status in the academy is higher than his. Jonas can even order him around without any issues. He still remembered when Jonas called him senior respectfully when he came here, but only 4 years later, the difference in both status and attitude was huge. The other representatives looked at Jonas without saying anything. Even though he was a junior, his status was better than theirs. What do you think about what's going on? Will that boy be able to truly awaken his element? Jonas asked while looking around. It is almost impossible, but there has been times when it happened. But his chances aren't high, the man said. Currently, there wasn't any sign of his previous overbearing attitude when he spoke. He was as meek as a sheep. Jonas looked at him. Well, we will see how he fares. Hopefully he won't waste any of our times. Jonas currently spoke with dignified bearing. He had always been with people of high status when he was at the academy or other big cities. His worldview has changed completely. He has learned a lot and can't be said to be the little boy he used to be. I'm not really sure he can awaken it, but there's no harm in allowing him to retake the test, the man said. Soon it was time for the kids to register their names. Gray still haven't arrived yet. The elder started the test without any delay. They couldn't put the test on hold just because of someone. If Gray can come before he is given the second list, then he can also be tested. By the time it was the 8th person, a commotion took place at the side of the arena. It immediately drew the attention of everyone there. He has finally showed up. Gray had appeared. Gray walked into the arena calmly. His eyes were like still waters, calm yet enchanting. He walked towards the place where registrations take place. Okay, what's your name and age? The man in charge of registration was quite surprised that someone who had clearly passed the age came to register. Then he quickly remembered what he heard before the test began, about a boy who failed to awaken his element 4 years ago. Gray, I'm 16 years old, Gray replied politely. Okay, you will be the 21st person called up. They're already at the 8th person. If you don't get to the platform within 1 minute after your name is called up, you won't have a chance to take the test this year and will have to wait till next year, he told Gray the rules.
I know, sir.
Thank you anyway, Gray thanked the man before heading towards the stands in search of Martha. Martha came early, unlike the last time they came together. The last time, she had to register Gray before getting a seat. But this time, it was different as Gray is already old enough to do it properly. She knew the arena will be filled today, so she came early and saved a seat for Gray. There was no way she was going to miss this, not for anything in the world. Today, her son was going to be in the limelight, and today will be one of the happiest days of her life. She knew how much this means to her son. He had suffered for so long just for this day. She had been with him all through, so she knew his pain. Whenever he's happy, she's happy. When he's sad, she's also sad. If he gets bullied by anyone, she beats up the person. This was one of the reasons few people troubled him. Gray quickly found her and sat beside her. Everyone were shocked by his calm look. It was like he wasn't even nervous. They thought he would have a serious look on his face. If it were to be them, they would be scared silly. Like, what if I still haven't awakened my element? The representatives fixed their eyes on the youth. His bearing is amazing, the representative from the Lunar Academy said with surprise. The other representatives nodded in approval. This was a big day for Gray and the pressure on him must be intense. If he couldn't awaken his element, then he will be totally finished. For him to still look so calm even in the presence of this huge crowd who he knew came just to watch him most probably fail, they couldn't help but admire his bearing. Jonas looked at Gray for some time. It was like Gray felt his stare in particular and looked at his direction. They stared at each other for a while before moving their gazes from each other. How come I suddenly felt inferior when I met his eyes just now? That should be impossible. It's definitely a mistake. Jonas was alarmed in his heart. When Gray looked at him a moment ago, he felt something he only felt from his seniors in the academy. It was a feeling of inferiority. He rarely feels this among his age group. The only people he looks up to in his age group are those rare monsters with either a blue-grade talent or a dual elementalist. He had only heard of 3 people his age who has blue talent. And only one who was a dual elementalist. Dual elementalists were even rarer than people with blue talents. They rarely appear and are stronger than people in their stages. They can easily fight across multiple stages without any issues, because they were fortified by 2 elements. Gray didn't feel anything when he looked at Jonas. He knew although Jonas was currently better than him, it wouldn't take long for him to catch up and surpass him. As long as he remains hard-working, he will rise to be the strongest. As time went on, the people got more tense. They all wanted to know what the result of Gray's test will be. Some were hoping to witness something which they didn't think was possible, while others just wanted to see how Gray failed again. Martha looked around with confidence. She knew her son was going to shock them all. She couldn't wait to see their reactions. The elder went for the usual break and got the new list before he continued the test. Gray calmly looked at the kids who were having their tests. Some of them were happy with their results while others were sad. That was life though, everyone can't be successful. But there were some kids who didn't care what grade their talents were though. Some were meant to rise while others fail, but there are also a few who doesn't care about anything though. Those are the legendary group. They just came to take the test because they had to and nothing else. The time moved slowly. It was like the time was moving at a snail's pace. Usually they would have already called up to the 20th name, but they are still stuck in the 15th name. Everyone waited patiently for the main event of the day. Gray could feel the unease in the air. It was like they all wanted him to take the test immediately. Morons. I'll scare your hearts out with my result, Gray sneered in his heart. After a long wait, the audience finally heard the name they were waiting for. Next up, Gray, the elder, called the next name on the list. Even he had some expectations for what would happen with this particular test. Will he be able to change his destiny, or will he fall deeper into the darkness, the elder thought in his heart. Gray calmly stood up and gently walked towards the platform. He slowly got there under the watchful gazes of everyone. This kid, he's doing this on purpose, Martha complained when she saw how slowly Gray was walking. She knew he was doing it on purpose to create more tension in the hearts of everyone.
Humph! How shameless!
I'll teach him a lesson when we get home. Gray was having a good time with the gazes of everyone focused on him, unaware of his mother's plan. If he knew, he would surely scream in his heart, "What did I do, Mom? I was only trying to act mysterious." When he got to the platform, everyone's gazes were still tightly glued to him. He nodded in his mind for how cool he was. "Place your hand on the stone," the elder spoke to him calmly. Gray looked at the man, smiled before walking towards the stone confidently. When he placed his hand on the stone, everyone held their breaths and waited for the result.
N. We're out of the top 10 guys. We need more power stones.
The entire arena was quiet. They all had their eyes fixed on the figure whose hand was on the stone. They wanted to know the result badly. Time slowly moved as the seconds crept at a sluggish pace. Their hearts were racing in anticipation. What would be the result? This was the question in their minds. Jonas and the representatives also had the same thoughts. They were closer to the platform, so they saw how calm Gray looked. "He really is different from the rest," one of the representatives said. They all looked at the lazy-looking Gray whose hand was on the stone. Gray had a lazy look when his hand was on the stone. He didn't have the disposition of someone who had failed to awaken his element previously. It was like it was his first time doing the test, and he didn't even care about the result. After some time, The strange energy left his body and returned into the stone. The elder walked over to confirm the results. When he saw the results, he looked at Gray shocked. Please place your hand on the stone again. The tone of the elder changed slightly when he asked this. Gray looked at him for some time before placing his hand on it again. When the crowd saw this, they immediately started to murmur among themselves. This was how he was also told to place his hand on the stone the last time. Seems like we came in vain. Clearly he's failed to awaken his element again. Different opinions came in when they saw this. Those who were present the last time Gray did his test also didn't think Gray will be able to awaken. To them, seeing this was like seeing Gray in the platform years ago. What happened in both cases was exactly the same. The energy circled all over his body before returning to the stone. The elder once again came over to check. He was left stunned by what he saw. He couldn't even speak the results of the test. The people were surprised by his behavior. Could it be that he was able to awaken his element? They immediately started speculating about the result of the test. They knew something must have definitely happened for the elder to have this sort of reaction. Elder, what is the result? We don't have much time, so tell us the results. The representative of the Starlight Academy spoke coldly toward his for not calling the result sooner. The elder immediately got out of his shocked state and immediately announced the result. Gray, lightning element purple grade talent and earth element pink grade talent, he announced loudly. When everyone heard the result, they all looked dumbstruck. Even Gray had a surprised look in his face. Jonas had a look of disbelief.
Dual elementalist.
Gray was surprisingly a rare dual elementalist, and what was more shocking was the fact that he had the lightning element as well. Although the grade of the talent for the earth element, it doesn't change the fact that he is a dual elementalist. Martha looked at her son surprised. Did he know about this? We will talk when we get home. She didn't want to distract herself from what was happening. Today, Gray has shamed them all. And also, he had surprised even her who stayed with him. Martha looked at Gray's face, which also had a look of surprise. Seems like he wasn't aware of this as well. She calmed down when she felt it okay already. The crowd immediately burst into an uproar. Did the elder just call two different elements? Yes, lightning and earth elements. He is a dual elementalist. The crowd couldn't calm down. Not only were the crowd agitated, the representatives felt more agitated.
This is an unseen talent.
Each of his element balances him completely. One is for attacking, while the other is used mostly for defense. Jonas just looked on without being able to say anything. The representatives from each academy even forgot to fight over which academy he will be admitted to. Gray looked at the reactions of everyone and also how they looked. I'll always remember this day. Gray was proud of himself. He searched for Martha with his eyes and saw her smiling towards him. He walked out of the platform towards his mother. The stunned crowd still haven't been able to get over what they heard. The representatives quickly regained their wits and quickly shouted for Gray to wait. Wait. Which academy will you like to join? The elder of the Lunar Academy said. Gray looked at them and chuckled to himself. I will be joining the Lunar Academy. Gray didn't bother to wait before replying. He had a good impression of the representative from the Lunar Academy. He still remembered how he cheered him up when he came for the test previously. Gray left the platform and headed towards where his mother sat. The crowd still haven't been able to get out of the shock from what they witnessed. Derek's face paled when he heard the result. He knew there was a bad blood between the both of them, so when he thought about Gray's current status, he couldn't help but be scared. Gray felt very happy deep down when he saw the reactions of everyone. He. Surprise suckers, Gray snickered in his heart. The feeling of victory truly was a good feeling. After being mocked for so long, now he had climbed up from the abyss and stood straight before them.
Yet, none could speak before him.
Well done, Gray, you've truly silenced them. And also, you made me proud. Martha spoke with a huge smile on her face.
Of course, I'm the best.
You didn't expect anything less from me, right? Gray shrugged and said with a little laugh. Will you die if you don't praise yourself for once? Martha asked with a look that scared the shit out of Gray. Gray immediately dropped his head, clearly not having any plans of replying. Martha looked at him and shook her head. She could tell no matter what happened, Gray will always be Gray. N. We made it back into the top 10 guys. Now new target, top 5. We can do it. The entire arena stayed quiet for a long time. The representatives forgot to even remind the elder to continue the test. The representative from the Starlight Academy was obviously stunned, not expecting Gray to pick the Lunar Academy instead. He already had the thought of sucking up to Gray while they were still here. He clearly remembered how he acted towards Jonas. He felt he didn't do enough. That was why Jonas didn't bother with him all this while. He planned to make it up with Gray. If he could have a good relationship with someone like Gray, it would make life easier for him. The best elders were sent to better and bigger cities, but he was sent here, this little place called Red City. But what he can't deny was the fact that he had witnessed things the other elders haven't. To be able to first witness Gray failing to awaken his element, to seeing him awakening dual elements. It was an unforgettable experience. The elder from the Lunar Academy was struck with joy when he heard Gray's reply and burst into laughter. The other representatives looked at him with envy. They knew he would surely be rewarded by the Academy for bringing such a talent back. Even if this would be the only achievement he had in the sect, it was something worth being proud about. What annoyed the representatives from the other academies was the fact that Gray didn't even think and just chose them outright. He should have at least gave them all a chance before deciding which he wanted to join. Although most of the talents head to the Starlight Academy, at least there had been some who picked them. Jonas looked at everything going on with a complicated look. He remembered how much of a stir he caused when he took his test. But comparing it to Gray's, it wasn't worth talking about. When he chose to join the Starlight Academy, the other representatives only felt sad about losing such a talent. But the reactions they are currently showing towards losing Gray was clearly more than just being sad. He looked at Gray's smiling face and suddenly felt irritated. Humph, what is there to be proud about? I'm already ahead of you in planes. There is no way for you to catch up even if you're a dual elementalist. Jonas has always liked being the center of attention. He enjoyed the looks everyone gave him. But with the emergence of Gray, everything changed. All the kids who used to look at him with worshipping eyes were now staring at Gray like he was more than a god. Humph, why are you holding up the test? We don't have all day. Jonas immediately snorted and coldly said towards the elder in charge of the test. The elder immediately regained his calm and quickly called out the next name on the list. The kid whose name was called stood still. It was like he totally forgot his name. The crowd still hadn't gotten over what happened, so he couldn't be blamed. The elder shouted the name for the second time before the kid hurried over for his test. The entire arena didn't have any enthusiasm towards the rest of the test. They knew they had already seen the highlight of the test. The test ended with the crowd still stunned. The boy who failed to awaken his element 4 years ago was actually a dual elementalist. It was shocking. No one expected something like this to happen. Everyone who had previously mocked him started feeling scared. They felt like they were standing on fire. What if he wants to get revenge on me? This was what they were all thinking. Some even went over to Gray's house to congratulate him. When Martha saw them, she frowned immediately. She didn't like any of them because they insulted Gray when he hadn't awoken his element. If not for the fact that they were all scared of her, they might have done more than just insulting him. Gray didn't even bother with any of them. Currently, the representative from the Lunar Academy came over to talk to him. It's surprising you were able to awaken your element after not being able to awaken it while you were 12 years old. This truly is a rare sight, the representative said with a sigh. It was all thanks to Senior's word that I was able to hang on and not lose faith, Gray said calmly. When he saw him, he suddenly remembered what he said. Truth be told, he didn't even remember how he got out of the arena, talk less of what he was told. But he had to put up a good demeanor in front of the representative. Like I remembered what you said, Gray thought. That truly was the worst day of his life. I only said it to encourage you. Truth be told, I have never seen anyone who was able to awaken his element after failing once. I've only read about it in books, the representative said with a smile. Oh, by the way, my name's Chris. You can call me Elder Brother Chris. Chris told Gray his name. I think I'll stick with Senior, Gray said with a smile. Although Gray was troublesome, he was respectful. His mother taught him this, so no matter if he will one day grow stronger than them or stand at his peak, his elders will always remain his elders. But there have been a few times he was disrespectful towards some older people. Not everyone deserves the respect an elder should be given. Martha almost got to the point where she wanted to chase all their visitors away. Luckily, they left on their own. If Gray were to be present, he would have clearly seen the fear in the eyes of the leaving visitors. When Gray saw her coming inside, "Mom, are they all gone?" he asked. "Yes, they said they had things to do, hence they left early," Martha replied. Gray looked at her for some time. He clearly didn't believe it. She must have scared them away, Gray thought. Why is she giving me that look? Did she know what I was thinking? No. Impossible. Gray felt genuinely scared. N. Come on guys, we're now at the 7th place in the ranking. 5th place not far away. We can do it. Chris looked at the mother and son duo, clearly surprised by the sudden silence after Martha replied to Gray's question. Gray, how come you didn't even get tea for our guest? Martha decided to break the silence. Due to receiving guests, she was unable to personally receive Chris. When she saw Gray didn't even prepare tea for him, she immediately chided him. "It's okay, I didn't plan on staying long. I only came over to confirm with Gray when he will be able to leave for the academy with me," Chris said with a smile. Martha looked at Gray when she heard this, clearly indicating the decision was up to him. When Gray saw her look, he knew what she meant. When he wanted to reply, he immediately froze. He was excited about starting cultivation, so he wanted to say they could leave the next day. But when he thought of it, he felt lucky. "That was a close call. She would have definitely flipped out if I said I wanted to leave tomorrow," Gray thought while heaving a sigh. Although he said this in his heart, he knew he couldn't leave her so soon. He wanted to spend time with her. When he still hadn't awoken his element, he was totally occupied with training. Now, he would be leaving soon. It will be wrong of him if he didn't spend some time with his lovely mother. When Martha heard this, she felt happy inside. She knew how eager Gray was about cultivating, but he decided to stay a week just for her sake. "Okay, I'll come back a week from now. I'll be in the city until then," Chris nodded and prepared to leave. "Okay," Gray walked Chris to the door. "Take care of yourself. Goodbye for now," Chris advised before heading out. "I will, goodbye," Gray waved at him before heading back into the house. When he stepped in, he looked at Martha, who was standing and looking at him lovingly. "Why did you decide to wait a week before leaving?" Martha asked. Although she knew the reason, she still wanted to hear what Gray would say. "What's the difference if I start cultivating now or in a week's time? I only took a week off, so I can rest after so many days of constant training," Gray said. When Martha heard his reply, her smiling face immediately changed. On seeing the change in her facial expression, Gray burst into laughter. "I'm only joking, Mom. I wanted to spend time with the best mother in the world before leaving. If I had left immediately, wouldn't that make me a bad child?" Gray continued laughing while stating his real reason to Martha. When Martha heard this, a sweet smile immediately surfaced on her face. "Humph, luckily you still think of your mother. Of course, I'll miss you a lot when I'm not here. Besides, I won't be able to see a beautiful lady who lights up my life every day," Gray said cheekily. "Save your teasing for the young girls of the academy." Martha rolled her eyes when she heard Gray's teasing. She also felt sweet inside. "By the way, how come you're a dual elementalist? You didn't tell me you comprehended a new element." Martha asked the question she had wanted to know when she heard the result. "Even I didn't know about it until today. I had a little understanding of the earth element when I went over to the lightning mountain, but I didn't expect it to actually awaken the element so quickly," Gray said in a tone that clearly showed his surprise. "Truly unexpected. Well, it's a good thing for you. Only, I don't think it will be easy for you to comprehend new elements. You were fortunate this time. Let's hope your luck continues," Martha said seriously. "Yeah, now I'll have to focus on cultivating and comprehending the elements. It wouldn't be as it used to, since I wouldn't be to put all my focus on one of them." Gray shared his thoughts with Martha. Gray spoke with Martha for the rest of the day before deciding it was time to get some rest. "Mom, I miss Dad," Gray suddenly said when he was about to leave. It had already been so long, yet his father still haven't returned. "Yes, I miss him too," Martha said with a faint voice. "When will he return?" Gray asked. Gray had been asking this question for a long time now. "I don't know, dear, but he promised me he'll return safely. He also told me he might stay for a long time before returning. I initially begged him not to go, but he said it was very important and had to leave. And besides, he's never lied to me. So I know he'll come back to me," Martha said firmly. She knew just how many times she had used this statement to not lose hope. After being gone for so long, she had never once lost hope. Her husband will never lie to her. He will definitely return. Yeah, he will definitely return. "It's just, I wish he were here to celebrate with us," Gray said with a smile. He knew bringing up this topic will ruin their celebratory mood, but he just had to bring it up. Martha looked at Gray with a smile. She really does love him a lot. She decided to let him off for his performance during the time he was called up. She suddenly felt lonely when she thought about Gray's upcoming departure. Her husband still hasn't returned, now her son would be leaving soon also. She looked out the window with tears flowing down her cheek like rain. She's always been strong because of Gray. But when she's alone, she clearly feels the pain of her husband not being here. Doing so much has not been easy for her, but she had to stay strong not just for herself but also for her son. "Wish you were here." Gray spent time with Martha, but he had already gotten used to always training. So after 3 days, he had to go train. Martha shook her head when she saw this. She knew he wouldn't be comfortable staying this long without doing anything. Fortunately, he didn't spend all day training like he usually does. He would only spend approximately 4 hours training before heading back home. He encountered the representative from the Starlight Academy when he was returning from his training. "You can still change your mind, you know," he said to Gray. "I've already made my decision." "Thanks for the invitation," though Gray declined politely. Gray wanted to continue his journey but was blocked again by the representative. "The Lunar Academy isn't even in the top 3 in terms of strength. We've dominated the Empire for years now," he said proudly. Gray knew what he said was right, but he didn't care about it. He liked how Senior Chris presented himself. This, in turn, made him have a good impression of the Lunar Academy. Gray had never been the haughty type, and he had learned a lot during these 4 years he was not able to awaken his element. He knew more about human nature also. "You will regret this decision of yours," the representative said coldly before leaving. Gray looked at him with cold eyes. He didn't like him. Good thing he wouldn't see him once he joins the Lunar Academy. Gray went home and continued his normal routine. He spent most of his time with Martha, then went over to the forest to train. He also visited the Lightning Mountain once more. He savored the feeling he got from it. "This is a nice place, hopefully. I can find a place like this in the academy." Gray loved the feeling he got whenever he came here to meditate. Elementalists cultivate by meditating. They try to attract the elemental particles of their said elements into their bodies. It would then be refined by the elementalist. The collection plane is all about collecting the elemental particles into the body of an elementalist. After collecting the particles to a certain level, then the fusion stage would begin. Gray heard Jonas had already broken through to the arcane plane. This was the same plane the mayor of Red City was currently in. Gray couldn't wait to start his cultivation journey. Just the thought of it got him excited. Gray prepared himself for his journey, and soon it was only a day before he left. Senior Chris was staying at an inn in the city, so getting to him wouldn't be an issue. Gray was sure he wouldn't even need to search for him. Normally, the representative wouldn't have asked when he wanted to leave. He would have just told him they will be leaving soon. Each representative rarely stays more than 4 days in the city. They didn't like coming here in the first place, so they were always grumpy if they had to stay longer. But due to Gray's talent, he had to stay for a week just so he could fulfill Gray's demands. Although he wasn't sucking up to him, he wasn't trying to offend him either. This was one of the reasons Gray respected him even more. Gray knew if it were to be other representatives, they would have tried to suck up to him. This also made him more curious about the Lunar Academy. If the academy isn't as the representative presented, then he would be very disappointed. Although he wouldn't have a problem since he was a dual elementalist, he would have a high status anywhere he went. Power was everything, and talented individuals were respected a lot, since they would turn into powerhouses in the future, so long as they do not die early. Finally, the day of his departure finally came. Martha was feeling both sad and happy. She was happy Gray's dream of cultivating was about to be realized, but was sad since she would be left all alone. She suddenly thought of something and quickly made a decision. "Gray, I'll be heading to meet your father." Martha suddenly spoke. "You know where Dad is?" Gray asked in a surprised tone. "Actually, I would have gone with him if not for you. You were the only reason keeping me here. Now since you're about to go to the academy, I'll be able to go freely without worrying about you," Martha said while caressing Gray's cheek. Gray thought about it and felt it was the right decision. Staying here wouldn't bring her anything. "So, how will I find you?" Gray asked. He wanted to know where they were so in case he wanted to go find them, it would be easy. "Don't worry about us for now. I'll send you a message when I get there. Just focus on your cultivation for now," Martha reassured Gray. She wanted him to focus fully on his cultivation. He has already fallen behind, so he needs to fully focus on his cultivation. "Okay, Mom, but don't forget to send me the message, so I won't get worried about you." It has already been so long since he heard from his father. If his mother was added, it would be devastating for him. Chris came after some time. "Gray, are you ready?" he asked. "Yes," Gray replied. "Okay, come with me," Chris replied before going out of the house, heading in the direction of the city gate. Gray hugged Martha before walking out. He stood outside and looked at the house for some time before following in the footsteps of Chris. When they passed through the city gates, Gray suddenly felt nostalgic. He couldn't help but taking another look at the city he had stayed in all his life. When he looked back, he saw Martha standing not too far from him with tear-filled eyes. A new phase of his life was about to begin.